Native Americans. Native Americans are the first people to live in America. They used to be called Indians, or American Indians, since Christopher Columbus thought he had discovered India, when he in fact had arrived to North America. The first Native Americans probably arrived 15 to 35,000 years ago. During that time, the Ice Age, the water was frozen, which meant the people could walk from Asia to Alaska across a land bridge. From Alaska, these people then spread southwards. When Christopher Columbus reached the New World, America, in 1492, there were between 2 and 18 million Native Americans living there. By 1900, conflict and disease reduced the population to about 250,000 in the US and 100,000 in Canada. Daily life. Most Native Americans lived in tribes. A tribe is a group of people who share the same ancestors, customs, beliefs, and leaders. Most tribes lived by gathering food, growing food, fishing, and hunting. In most American native tribes, there is equality between the sexes. The men and women do different things, but the things women do are by no means regarded as less important. Although men had the main responsibility for hunting and fishing, the women sometimes took part in wars. The children are highly regarded in the Native American society. They are the future, and they are not only the parents' concern, but the whole tribes. There were several types of Indian homes: teepees or teepees, wigwams or wickups, and cliff dwellings or caves. Symbols. The Native Americans often painted their face and body with symbols. They believed that gave them special powers and protection in battles. History. Millions of Native Americans were killed by European and African diseases and in the wars with American settlers. The disease that killed the most Indians was smallpox. Native Americans today. The arrival of Europeans in America resulted in the end of most Native American populations and cultures. Around 2% of the American population today is Native Americans. The majority of them live in California. Some tribes are well off and own valuable natural resources or have opened luxury resorts for tourists. Other Indians are among the poorest people in the US. 80% of the Navajo Indians are unemployed, and many of them do not have electricity or running water. They speak about 800 different languages, so-called indigenous languages, for example, Navajo, Sioux, and Apache. Trail of Tears. The US government passed a law in 1830 called the Indian Removal Act. This allowed the US government the right to force Native American tribes to leave their land and move to reservation lands the government had put aside for them. Most Indian tribes did not want to leave their land. It was their spiritual and physical home, but the government sent in the army to force tribes to move. The Cherokee refused to leave their land and move. They had no desire to live in Oklahoma. They wanted to live in the land of their ancestors, where they had always lived. The Cherokee took their case to the US Supreme Court, and they won. The Supreme Court said the Cherokee were right. The US government could not force them to move. The Cherokee people were so happy. They thought they had won the battle to live on their own land, but they were mistaken. President Andrew Jackson ignored the Supreme Court ruling. He ordered the US Army to capture all the Cherokee they could find and force them to move. The U.S. Army followed the President's direction. The Supreme Court did nothing. This was an incredibly sad time in American history. Most Cherokee had to walk the whole way to Oklahoma. They walked through rain and cold and incredible heat. More than 4,000 Cherokees died on the journey. That is why this forced eviction is called the Trail of Tears. Here is a list of some Native American tribes: Cherokee, Navajo, Sioux, Apache, and Blackfoot. Some famous Native Americans: Pocahontas, 1595 to 1617. She was made famous by the Disney movie about her life. She was the daughter of the chief of Powhatan tribe. She is also famous for warning a group of European settlers of an attack from her father and thereby saving their lives. Her marriage in 1614 to settler John Rolfe was the first interracial marriage in American history. They later moved to England, where Pocahontas became a celebrity. She died in England at the age of 22. Sitting Bull, 1831 to 1890. He is perhaps the most famous Native American Indian ever. This Sioux warrior is famous for his victory over the United States Army, led by General Custer at the Battle of Little Big Horn, where he killed every last man. Geronimo, 1829 to 1909. He is a famous Apache military and spiritual leader. For several decades, he fought Mexican and United States forces, looking to expand into Apache territory. His name means one who yawns. Crazy Horse, 1840 to 1877. He was a great Sioux warrior and a leader in the Great Sioux War of 1876. He was also called Curly because of his curly hair. As a child, he was not very big, but brave. Whether he was hunting buffalo or taming wild horses, he showed no fear. He had a daughter named They Are Afraid of Her. He refused to be photographed.